Welcome to School Leadership Academy SCRT J&K. Today we will talk on school system and pedagogical leadership in J&K, critical issues, challenges and opportunities for transforming teaching learning process. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one more responsive to the change. And today we have National Education Policy 2020 with us, its implementation program Sarthak 1 and Sarthak 2. In this regard, today we have a special guest, Mohammad Rafi sir, who has been in civil administration with a decade experience in education sector, especially worked in different core capacities in education department like Director School Education, SPD, Samagra Shiksha, earlier SSA and RMSA, and more importantly, he was the mission advisor to school education. Now, sir, we welcome you in our studio.
Thank you.
Sir, first of all, we have one report with us, that's Future of Education. It talks about that world is facing unprecedented challenges, especially social, economical, environmental challenges, including accelerated globalization, faster rate of technological development. Sir, in this regard, जो रिफॉर्म हमें चाहिए ग्लोबल लेवल पे, लाइक स्कूल एजुकेशन में, बिकॉज स्कूलिंग का नेटवर्क दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा नेटवर्क है, तो वी नीड अ स्ट्रॉन्ग लीडरशिप. वी बिलीव इन दैट एज स्कूल लीडरशिप एकेडमी, आवर पेरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन NCSL न्यू दिल्ली बिलीव्स इन दैट. सर, मैं आपसे जानना चाहता हूं कि कौन से कोर चैलेंजेस हैं हमारे स्कूल लीडरशिप में, सिस्टम लीडरशिप में, पेडागोजिकल लीडरशिप में.
देखिए, आपने बात की OECD के हवाले से. OECD रिपोर्ट, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, केम समवेयर इन 2018.
यस सर.
तो इट इज स्पीकिंग ऑफ uncertainties, of difficulties, of challenges, maybe some opportunities also in education. That's right. But post-COVID, the whole thing has changed even more. In fact, post-COVID and post-COVID changes have overtaken even this OECD. Exactly. You know, it's a whole lot of disruption wrought by COVID. Now that disruption, that change, that has changed entire perspectives, all approaches, all management perspectives, all leadership approach. So there's a whole churning happening across the globe today. And mostly, for most part, it is dictated by whatever happened during pandemic and after pandemic. Exactly. Now, you spoke of leadership. Absolutely, there's nothing, you cannot overstate its importance. It's a key factor, universally acknowledged. If you are a good leader back home, your family is more harmonious, more cohesive. Right from family to neighborhood to society to country to nation. Leadership is a core competency. You have to deliver on a promise. You need to be a leader. You have to deliver on a program, a project, a mission, an intervention, an initiative. You have to have a certain leadership quotient with you, a certain core competency that enables you to take your team along, that inspires confidence in your team,
Yes, sir.
that gives them a new lease of energy, infuses new kind of I would say stepped up enthusiasm.
Truly,
So
sir. Truly.
leader basically is a catalyst.
Exactly, sir.
Leader is a catalyst. Leader has an agenda. Leader makes change happen. And you can make change happen, you have to have certain givens with you as a leader. Your personal integrity, your professional competence. There is no, you become a role model on the kind of agenda that you are supposed to steer, you are supposed to lead. You have to be a role model on that. And not the least, there is no conflict. There is no role and goal conflict. That's very important in leadership. You have to be seen by your team and by your society and by your target audience at large that there is absolute synergy, absolute integration. But by what you profess, between what you profess, what you preach, and what you practice.
Exactly,
So
sir.
integrity is very important for a leader. Now, when it comes to education,
सर इसमें मैं ऐड करना चाहता हूँ जो चैलेंजेस है हमारी स्कूल लीडर्स को, स्पेशली जो हमारे हेडमास्टर हैं, प्रिंसिपल साहिबान हैं, उनकी जो एज प्रॉब्लम है, क्योंकि एवरेज एज हमारे एचओआई की यहाँ इट्स अबव 50. सेकंड प्रॉब्लम सर जो है वो है अनअट्रैक्टिव प्रोफेशन है, अनअट्रैक्टिव बिकॉज जैसे इनका मल्टीपल रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ हैं. सर इस चैलेंज को हम कैसे दूर करें?
अब देखिए, you have hit the nail on the head. We just cannot. We have a wonderful document. We have a great enabler in the form of NEP 2020.
Exactly, sir.
I wish it had come some 20 years earlier, 15 years earlier, or 10 years earlier, when we were also part of the system. The question is, it removes so many shackles, so many barriers. You have multidisciplinary freedom available today.
Exactly, sir.
You have choices, freedom of choices, and you have, above all, you have so much of technical expertise, so much of capital, so much of policy investment to back you up. This enabler will remain an enabler only without a corresponding delivery on ground if certain basic bare minimum things do not happen. For example, you talked of leadership crisis in school system in the sense that you don't have right leaders. You don't have right leaders because you don't have right people, you don't have right attitudes and right levels of motivation.
Exactly.
That's what you meant. The fact of the matter is, there has to be, if you really want our school leaders to be able to deliver on the mandate that's with them. The mandate is there. The mandate is clear.
Exactly.
What is not clear, that they are not perhaps in a position to deliver it because of certain limitations.
Exactly.
Limitations imposed on them by the system. Certain limitations in terms of capacity building. Certain limitations of their own, being uncertain. Of their roles and goals and their capabilities and competencies and expectations of the society and the nation of them. अब इसमें क्या करना है? 2-3 चीजें बेसिक, देयर हैज टू बी बेसिक रीस्ट्रक्चरिंग. फॉर एग्जांपल
सर इसमें मैं एक चीज़ ऐड करना था, जो हमारे पास ये डॉक्यूमेंट है सर, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन प्रोग्राम सार्थक का. सर इसमें टास्क 152 दैट क्लियरली टेल्स अस दैट देयर शुड बी मेरिट बेस्ड, टेन्योर बेस्ड, जो मेरिट बेस्ड प्रमोशंस rather than tenure based.
I was possibly you have preempted me.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was going to tell you. Sarthak is it gives you timelines.
Yes,
it gives
sir,
you a pathway how to be able to deliver on different mandates of the NEP
Exactly,
2020.
exactly,
That's a wonderful document. So like we had the 1986 policy, then it had to be followed up, which was put before the parliament and passed by the parliament. It was POA, Program of Action. 86 policy had wonderful postulations of its time, but then it didn't have a roadmap. How do you access them? So great that we have Sarthak with us. So the point I was trying to make, you have to have a basic rejig, a basic restructuring. Now on the management side, you have to do a certain restructuring. We have, for example, we are talking of the gazetted service. For example,
yes, sir.
J&K School Education Gazetted Service Act Rules. This is a service. This service has outlived its relevance. It is a time of new challenges, new changes, new expectations and new demands of the system. So what do we have to do? We have possibly to reorganize. This service has to have certain component of selection into it, not the thumb rule of seniority.
Exactly.
At every
Which
level.
Sarthak talks about.
Does it?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Wonderful. At every level, you have to have inbuilt mechanisms of selection, of filtration,
Exactly, sir.
of incentivizing growth. You have
Exactly.
to have assured growth paths. Please let us take certain let's take a leaf from what is happening in the corporate world. Why is corporate world growing manifold? I mean beyond expectations and in the shortest possible time.
Exactly, sir.
Because it's a meritocracy. It is driven by meritocracy. Gone are the times. Either okay, if we have to go by the tradition, let's not talk of NEP 2020. Let's not talk of new challenges. Let us not talk of what is happening in Philippines, the best models coming there. No, let us, okay, we accept, we concede, we are in a traditional mind, we continue, we will not change. But if we have to change, if we have challenges identified before us, and we have a roadmap before us, so my request, my earnest request to the government of Jammu and Kashmir would be that certain restructuring, some basic spade work was done in 2014, 2013, but it did not conclude. Possibly, it was some kind of, I don't know why did it get aborted, but that's not the point. The point is to pick up the thread again, because now you have NEP 2020. You didn't have NEP 2020 then. So you have an enabler now. You have a mandate, not only an enabler. If you don't do it, you are failing on your mandate.
Exactly,
So
sir.
it's an obligation, it's a commitment that you have to deliver on. There's no way looking the other way. NEP or no way. So you have to be out of the system, but if you are in the system, you got to brace up, you got to raise your capacities, you got to build up on all fronts to be able to deliver on the mandate that the NEP 2020 casts on the government. Now it's a question of systemic leadership.
Yes, sir.
So coming, top down.
Exactly.
Mandate
sir.
on the
Top-down approach.
mandate on the government. Essentially, it's a mandate. First mandate is with the government. You tell me
Government.
how. The question is NEP 2020. We know, I would say, unprecedented consultations happened. District level, state level, UT level, SIE level, DIET level, whatever SCRT. I've been myself occasionally part of this consultation
sir.
process, including one national consultation in 2015 in Delhi. So anyway, the point I'm trying to
Sir, even sir, मैं आपको रोकना
do we no, please tell me, I don't know, because I'm not in the system today. Do we have today a mechanism in place to monitor implementation, to monitor exactly what is happening on the tasks identified and timelined in Sarthak?
Yes, sir.
Do we have some code
Yes, sir.
group?
That's the best part of.
No. Sarthak is the best part.
Yes.
Do we have a monitoring mechanism corresponding to Sarthak, which could meet, say, periodically, once a month, once a fortnight, and keep gauging day to day or weekly progress in implementation of different tasks laid down in Sarthak? Do we have such a mechanism?
Sir,
I don't know.
Sir, we have a government of India under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister.
Government of India is absolutely clear. I am talking
Even
of the
United Nations
J&K level.
commitment.
No, tell me. Now J&K has a mandate. J&K has a pathway before it in the form from the Government of India in the form of Sarthak. Do we have a monitoring committee? Do we have some kind of a mechanism? This is what I raised this issue I believe it was 2020 itself. Or maybe 21, there was a consultation that was online. उस वक्त ये था, COVID था. Secretary Higher Education was presiding over that consultation then. So I made it a point that there has to be some kind of an institutional
Accountability mechanism.
Accountability is already there. All of us, we know we are accountable. But is somebody judging us for our accountability? Okay, what have I done on a scale of 10? For example,
Exactly,
in the last 1.5 years, where do I figure? Am I at 5? Am I at 1 only? Is somebody monitoring it? Is there some tracking happening? Is there some assessment and evaluation happening? And is there some feedback then generated? And I am in SCRT and I am being told, well, gentlemen, you have done well. But here's an area which is gray area. You haven't done so well.
Exactly, sir.
So this kind of a mechanism, this kind of an institutional arrangement is very important. Otherwise, we'll go haywire. Everybody is talking of NEP, everybody, and there has to be a certain intersectoral, even intra-sectoral coordination. That coordination also would be a function of that monitoring mechanism.
Exactly,
So
sir.
my request to the government, my request to SCRT would be to kindly flag this as an area. It's a very important area. And we were talking of restructuring. Let's go back to that. It has to be merit driven. It cannot be thumb rule of seniority any longer. And what would that demand? That demands that you will have to break this service. You will have to have a cadre of specialists, of
Exactly.
educational leaders. Anybody and everybody cannot be given to management of schools. You have to have a particular attitude, a particular aptitude, a particular orientation, a particular adaptability to change. You started with the quotient of change. It is not strength of a species that determines its survival.
Responsive to the change.
It is how amenable to change that particular species is. If there's anything permanent in the world, that's change. So, likewise, on the side of teacher education, very important, I tell you, it was put in public domain again in 2014, something like that, or 15 maybe, or 13, whatever. A separate cadre of teacher educators that's the need of the hour. It's a super special. It's not a specialization area. It's a super specialization area because there are added challenges with this NEP 2020 and this roadmap of Sarthak. Anybody and everybody, you may be the best of teachers. You may be a wonderful teacher, but it's not necessarily true that you will be a very good or as good a teacher educator as well.
Exactly,
No, you have to have a selection process. You have to incentivize specialization, even super specialization, and you have to put premium on research. Everything and anything happening in teacher training institutions have to be data driven, has to be based on research, has to have a recurrent evaluation, and that evaluation has to inform your decision making finally. So this is you know
Sir,
these
this
forward,
is the ideal
backward,
stage. Sir, मैं चाहता हूँ
lateral, horizontal, these linkages, vertical linkages, unless you have these linkages, you are not going to be very honest on the mandate that is cast upon you as a result of this.
ते जाते एक अहम चीज़ है जब क्वालिटी एजुकेशन की बात आती है तो ऑब्वियसली टीचर एजुकेशन हैज़ टू improve its standards. But sir, down the line we have a one established structure जो policy में sir we have a task number 214 which talks about the BRC CRC structure.
Yes,
which is the lifeline, which are the satellite.
Absolutely. That.
Sir, उस पे मैं चाहता हूँ कि what's your expert opinion on that?
That takes me back to 2002. Incidentally, I was in a different role, but with education.
Yes, sir.
With education, I was working in a system. You know, those were years, 2002 up to 2010. You had the best of teacher on-site support, teacher on support structures in the form of CRCs, BRCs, and then DRG, district resource groups. We have hundreds of physical units even existing today. What has happened to them? Why did we allow a dilution? Now, if a dilution happened willy-nilly, it happened by default. But our great portion of infrastructure built for these structures of cluster level, zonal level, district level, that's an ideal asset. Why not revive it? We have trained tens of thousands. You will still find, if not thousands, hundreds of trained, master trainers in your system today. Exactly. But they may be doing roles where they have no teacher-trainer role. But this is an area which is lost to us. We need to find the threads again, restructure it, and put to use this immense resource. Put it again to a productive use.
Sir, when we talk of affordability, we have a right to education के साथ when we talk of accountability, सर मैं आपसे चाहता हूँ कि हमारे सिस्टम में जो मीडिया रिपोर्ट्स आ रहे हैं कि वो कह रहे हैं there is a lack of accountability in the system. सर मैं आपसे एक एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन चाहता हूँ कि how we can as a system, either it can be a directorates, it can be a Samagra Shiksha, it can be a SCRT. These are the tripolar system. We got the tripod. Now, I want from you how we can develop a strong, robust accountability mechanism within school leadership, within system leadership, within pedagogical
Again, a
leadership.
twofold response. One is that you have to build managerial capacities, management capabilities,
Okay, sir.
core competencies in teacher education, in school administration, in school management, in deliverance of quality parameters. All this, combined essentially means that you have to develop capacities and you have to keep building capacities on a continuing, regular and recurrent basis. It's not a one-time affair. It has to be a integral and inalienable part of the system. The system should always be keeping an eye on the training needs, which keep changing. Training needs
sir.
is not a something, it's not a static kind of a thing. So, and the system has to be such which keeps responding on a continuous basis. Number one. Two is, when we talk of this, your essential question was regarding
Accountability mechanism.
that's right. One is this training needs, and when this accountability system again comes up, I said there has to be a restructuring of educational services, and there when it comes to accountability, unless there's a basic thing called reform. Reform, there's a prerequisite to reform. If you want reform, you have to incentivize performance.
Okay.
How can you place a non-performer and a performer on the same pedestal?
Exactly.
There has to be a basic philosophical change, conceptual clarity on this. So as long as you do not incentivize performance, you will not be able to enforce accountability as you should.
Exactly, sir. So that's the best part. And today we have dealt one of the key issues of school leadership, system leadership, and pedagogical leadership. And sir was repeatedly telling about the meritocracy about in the systematic, because we have a national education policy with us. We have implementation program Sarthak 1 and Sarthak 2 with us. That is the best roadmap as told by our beloved Mohammad Rafi sir, who has been in the system for a long time and have dealt the issues with zeal. Thank you all for watching us, and we are looking for your comments, your suggestions, so that as SCRT, as School Leadership Academy, we can prepare a draft for bringing this national education policy, which looks a dream, but we have a team with us who can really implement, especially in the UT of JNK. Thank you all.